called, what was it? Cataract? Or what do you,
Yeah, cataract.
that's what it was. And it impaired her eye. Uh-huh. And she just,
Looked out the side.
yeah, uh-huh. And yeah, she had that movie.
Oh,
But she
okay.
was a
And now they
Blanca
do
estaba
laser on the cataract.
Blanca,
She was one.
bonita, Blanca.
Yeah.
She was fair,
Fair.
fair, and very pretty woman.
Could she have had a different father?
I'm sure. Yeah, because she was the
She was the
oldest.
firstborn.
Mhm.
Well, they said that
And Theodora and my mother were from the same.
same father.
Mhm. And Tela and your mother. I think Tela was from a different. I don't know.
She came out more morena.
Morena, Morena, Morena. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And she's shorter.
Yes.
Dark hair. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like us.
I know it.
Y luego, you know,
I know.
uh-huh. And luego the legs and everything would look like
Everything,
Tela.
yeah. We did
God.
have good legs, though.
Oh, yes.
We all did have good legs. That's the last thing to go. It's over. You know what's interesting? Alvina and I were comparing because when my mom was really ill and we used to have to exercise her legs and things,
Yeah.
my mom had these legs that were really nice looking, no veins or crinkly, but you know, they didn't have any hair on them. You know, like you have leg
Yeah.
hair and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so she was saying, I don't have leg hair.
On
I
my
said,
leg?
I haven't shaved my legs or underarms since I was
But
4.
isn't that because of nylons?
Since
nylon
no,
rips them
no,
off?
since I was, I don't wear the bands here.
No. Really?
No,
I
and
don't
and
just know.
no, look, I
Oh my
haven't.
gosh.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Oh
And-
my gosh, that is so
My
weird.
mother used to And say, my
"Hello."
mothers were like that.
Yeah.
And I had, but it's gone. It's been gone a long time ago. My legs are not hairy, are they?
They're not.
Yeah, and another thing, my mother had silky skin. It was silk.
Oh, she had beautiful
Silk.
skin.
And even when she was in a coma, the doctors and the nurses mentioned that used to move her.
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
she had skin that was like a young girl's.
Tela didn't have a wrinkle when she was in.
Yeah.
Did you see her in her coffin?
No,
No.
yeah, we did. Right?
Yeah. No wrinkles. She was as old as I am when she died. No wrinkles. And they've commented on my skin, as old as I am, that I don't have wrinkles.
No, you
Yeah.
look wonderful.
But I do.
Oh, we
You
have
know,
all
you-
we have wrinkles, but
Uh-uh.
you're not
We all
Wrinkly,
do.
wrinkly,
But
yeah.
Nora, your face is just smooth too. You know, it's our genes.
It's the Indian.
It's
The Chichimaya.
Yeah, the
No.
chichimayo. Thank you.
No, no. Chirimoya? No.
You eat a
No,
chichimayo.
no. Chichimeca.
So you know what fascinates me? and
What?
I don't know if you want
Yes,
to
we
cut
got
this
it all.
out, but I was just thinking, you know, when you leave
No more,
Mexico
no
and
more.
Tijuana and stuff, and there's all those little Indian kids selling chiclets. Like, couldn't that have been us?
Uh-huh.
Could
Yeah,
have been, huh?
absolutely.
Had somebody not made a decision,
Oh
a big decision,
To come here.
to go to another country.
But then if you go into where family came from, the families are a little more stable in selling chiclets and things.
Uh-huh.
They work in the plaza. I don't know what else they do. Seems to be a little more orderly. Don't you think, Teresa? In
Yeah.
Lyon and all those places,
Yeah.
it's much more orderly. You don't see those little.
Well,
Like you do in Mexico City, in the big cities or in Tijuana.
Mhm.
You don't see a lot of it there, no. Yeah. You know what was really nice, because I was in San Luis Potosí,
Mhm.
and it was late at night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning on. We'd hear the mariachis serenading. So we're staying at this hotel. So we got out of bed and we started following the music, and we went up the stairs to the roof. And then we got to the roof, and on the other side was a little park area. These taxis would drive up, and these couples would get out and be serenaded with the mariachis, get in their car and drive cab and drive off. Then
That's so
another one would
beautiful.
come up,
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, just, the different traditions that they do and
Well,
stuff.
remember in Mexico City, there's a whole park full of mariachis, and people come pick them up
when I went to Mexico in the 70s, no, it was around the 70s, I went to several nice places so, through this friend of mine. We stayed there 3 weeks and we went on a bus. We went on the bus. And you know, when we came to Mexico and I saw the mountains, they look different, like uh, eerie, like.
The
And
volcanoes.
I got so emotional. I started crying, but from the bottom of my heart, I felt that emotion. Why?
Get another life
To know
So-
probably that I came from there,
there at one
or
time.
because
You-
I
Yeah,
would never go live in Mexico or
no,
claim that I would want to go there because I'm American.
yeah.
Pues sí, pero it was strange with the emotion
Well,
to know that I was in Mexico. Crazy, huh?
No, no, you know what? I went to Zacatecas, and what's the other place where we had lunch on our way over to San Miguel? Um, I can't think of Cuerama. Maybe that's
No,
Cuerámaro, isn't it?
Querétaro.
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 And so, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, Querétaro.
Sí.
So we stopped there. But when I arrived, I felt it was like deja vu.
Like you've been there.
I've been here.
Uh-huh.
I really belong here.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of my favorite places.
It's beautiful.
But I always felt I just had this sense, this is where I came from.
Uh-huh.
And then when I went to Zacatecas for the first time, again you get the sense it wasn't as strong as it had been the first time at this other
Yeah.
place, but
Uh-huh.
Zacatecas, I just felt that I had been there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Something that you cannot
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I never felt, talked about it, never felt any
Uh-huh.
ties to it. But then when I got there, it was just real deep inside. You
Yes.
felt you had
Uh-huh.
this sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I had never been. First time I was in Mexico.
Yeah.
It was the first, just
What was
being.
the first time?
Yeah.
Shall I start scanning some pictures?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
We'll be able to make this into a still.
Wow.
We're gonna need directions on how to get to Fresno.
Yeah. Easy.
Okay, let's go to our house.
Okay.
We'll go
Let's do that.
Lotto Line, and then,
Don't move, Linnea.
Don't move, Linnea.
They're perfect.
Yeah, just hold it right there, sweetie sweets.
and then you just get back on 50.
Is there any way that I
And
can
then
get
you
it
see the 99 doesn't turn out,
like that?
and there you go.
Okay.
So we take 99 the whole way?
Okay.
Oh,
And you'll get off on her, and once you get there,
Okay.
go straight up to 1 street past McLean. And right, it's very easy.
Don't move, Linnea.
Because you're going to Louis.
Yeah.
It's gonna take you exactly 3 hours to get there, or 2:45 or something.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's not too much. And you're spending the night there?
Yeah.
And you put that up with all your children and grandchildren?
Yeah,
can
oh,
see
I
it?
can frame and put it up.
She's
She's
got
got a wall for that.
Oh, that's
And,
beautiful.
when, whoa, it just takes an hour and a half. You're just gonna talk, and if we have a question, we'll ask you. We're gonna ask you.
You better ask me because I won't know what to
Maybe
say.
we should ask you,
Yeah.
how far back do you remember? Do you remember the family being in Cloudcroft or how they got here?
Put it on.
Did you,
That's Tia
Okay,
Lupe.
honey, sure.
yeah, huh?
I said, that's Tia Lupe. She's not Lupe.
Who's Tia Lupe?
And she's saying Lupe, Lupe.
Oh,
I says Tia Lupe.
yeah. And so we're, just start from when you remember you were a little girl. And do you remember?
I really don't
You were young.
Yeah, I was 7 when my mother died
I know.
Where did you live?
here in Fresno.
Oh, you were already here in Fresno.
Uh-huh.
Were you,
Uh,
so you were born in Fresno?
Yeah, I was born in Fresno.
Okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
But Kuka and my mom,
They lived on, who lived on F Street.
no sir.
That I was across the street from there the other day. There's a brewery across the street. They bring bands to play um, uh, all afternoon. They come and go. People
Oh.
come and play, and I didn't know. My girlfriend took me there, and there was a bunch of us went to listen to the music right across from where they used to live. Of course, it's not there anymore. It's a creamery now. Okay, when you're gonna let me know when you're gonna
No,
start.
you just.
Okay, we're
you
starting.
got
We
talk.
started.
Oh, you started already when I was
Uh-huh,
talking?
uh-huh. Yes.
Tell them about going to a brewery.
The brewery.
uh, Tell me, ask me what you want to know.
Just
How
what are
about-
your earliest memories?
You know, one of my memories, and this brings it back a lot because I remember as a young girl going to visit. I guess I don't know who took me there to who who's the one who was a sister that had the daughter that was mental.
Cruz. I mean, Cuca.
Cuca.
Tell
Okay,
Maria.
and her name was Maria. Okay, we used to go there, and I was afraid of her. I remember, and she would sit in she was like in a children's chair with a where she used to eat like this, and she'd be hitting and hitting, and I don't remember who took us. If Tela took us there, but I remember I didn't want to get down, and I was so afraid, and it's so ironic because that's Lizzie now.
Oh,
Oh
That
my
my
is
gosh.
Lizzie
God.
now.
I never thought of
Uh-huh.
that.
That is Lizzie
That
now.
was my mother's older
Uh-huh.
sister.
And it comes back, and every time I go see Lizzie, I come back remembering the
Maria.
horror I had of going. And we used to go, and I used to try to go around her, not go to get near her. This is terrible to be talking about
No,
this,
No,
no.
no.
but
Because she used to sit like this the
she used to
entire
sit like in a
episode.
uh-huh, and
On
then
a
and
rock.
she'd always bang, and they'd give her food, and she would just and I remember that, and it has always bothered me, and Lizzie is a lot like that, a lot like that.
So did your mother and Jovita and Kuka and Emma, did they get together often? The family?
I don't know. I don't remember who used to take me there. It had to be Tela though. Tela used to take me, and she would go visit, I guess, her sisters, and I
Yes.
don't remember them very well. I the only one I knew more was Kuka, but the other one that lived in that house, I don't remember her. I don't remember who was that.
There was another sister.
They were always living together.
Yeah, but the one that lived in that house on the corner, that had that daughter,
Oh, Cuca had the
that was
dog.
Kuka. Well, that
Kuka.
was Kuka.
That was my
See, I don't
mother's
remember
sister.
Kuka too well. I don't remember her. I remember not wanting to go there because of the
Cuca was sick.
was she sick? And I think Tela used to take us there. I think somebody
Hope
took
said she had tuberculosis like everybody else.
who did
Hope said
that who
Kuka.
the Kuka really?
she died. Maria died right before her in 25, and
Oh, yeah. I don't know
then your mother died.
who was telling us. Was it Sarah was telling us that my mother got tuberculosis taking care of her brother? He and his wife and my mother used to take care of him in Hanford, and he had TB, and that's how my mother got it, and that's how his wife got it and died too from him.
That was
That was her brother, my mother's brother.
Porfirio. Was
I
that his
don't
name?
know. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
And the only I remember Tela. All I know about them and Craycroft or wherever it was is Tela told us about them that they used to work. My mother worked in this homes up there, and that's that's all I know about that. But years, I don't know how many years ago, Ed took me to up there, took me to Alamogordo,
Okay.
and we spent the day. We got there about 10, and we were going to go up to Craycroft. It's up high, so we got
Clark Croft,
halfway up.
We went, yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, I told him I want to get down and I want to walk in. I took him by the church. I thought figure maybe the
Mhm.
church was said I want to walk where my mother walked. So right there I am walking all over and him following in the car. But
Oh, my
I
goodness.
wanted to walk where my mother walked as a little girl or whatever she was.
Mhm, young
And it was an
woman.
old town. It was old,
Mhm.
and then I got to the church and I just hoped that that's where she had gone. But and then it was very emotional.
Mhm.
And then we drove going up to Craycroft.
Cloudcroft.
What is it?
Cloud,
Cloudcroft.
como nuba.
Cloudcroft.
Cloud.
Como
It's
nuba.
still a big resort.
Is
yeah.
it?
Uh-huh.
Well, it was climbing, and we just got it.
They
So
used to go on that rail trail.
really,
Yeah, 3 cog.
we got so far up and we turned back.
Oh, you should have kept going.
I should have kept going, but I got very emotional just walking in my mother's
Yeah.
steps. So, and then when we got so far, then we came back. But I've always been sorry I didn't get that way up there.
Yeah, because that's where they were.
That's
We
where they were.
slept there,
Did you?
yes, and in their steps.
Oh, how
And
nice.
ate in the restaurant where Tata cooked and
Ah,
my mother's father
is that
cooked.
where te la
Yes.
metata?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. You were all about it.
You have to go.
It was very emotional.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you know we were raised with my dad, so we would see Tela's the one we'd see after, it was Tela and Cruz very seldom. You know when we start getting kind of more when Paul the son used to come to Fresno to
Who's-
visit Tela, Pascual.
Oh, Pascual.
Pascual used to come visit Tela, and then we got to know him
Oh,
because we were always with my dad.
well, she was very separated.
Yeah.
Cruz.
Yeah, she was. She didn't. I
And
remember.
Alice is-
I remember stopping. I don't know who took us or why. We went to Merced and we stopped to see her. And she lived in a little house. And you walked in and there was a table. And on top of that table, there were boxes and boxes and boxes and little boxes and boxes. And I thought everything was little boxes.
That was
And-
Cruz.
Cruz. And it's so weird because I love boxes.
Oh,
I love little boxes, and I have I don't let anybody throw a box away, and I keep it so long, and I just love boxes, and I think about her because
she had boxes.
she had lots of little, one on top of the other, a lot of little boxes all over, little tiny room, maybe that big.
I remember we went to her house,
Uh-huh.
and Cruz had glasses and dishes, but they were like wrapped in paper towels. you know.
Yeah,
She was very conscious of dirt and
Uh-huh.
germs, I guess.
Yeah.
And,
but she wasn't warm like your mom was. She'd always talk like this. She'd be like this.
She would just be like a loner.
Yeah,
mhm,
she was a loner.
she was.
Hmm.
That's how
And I think she
remember
was
her.
happy like that because she didn't reach out to us at all. She didn't. And so as a result, I don't remember seeing much of her. Um,
I remember one time my mom went to the grocery store with her, and they were going to buy some cebollas, onions,
Uh-huh.
and she said, Cruz just examined, look forever. And my mother says, Hermana, por favor. You know. Yeah, but she
Uh-huh.
was just real.
She was strange, very to herself.
And Alice is separated.
And Alice is a lot like her, not as bad as she was,
Mhm.
because I don't remember her carrying a converse. Of course, she didn't know us, and I didn't know her too well, but I don't remember carrying a conversation with her. I never
And
remember.
even in her pictures, as you see her pictures, you never see a smile on her face.
And she's separated
Very.
in the pictures.
And Alice has gotten more warmer late now that she's
Mhm.
older. Um, she came to Lawrence's funeral and she came here. Her daughter brought her. And then she kept in touch. She even know Mako's name, my student that lived with me, because she'd
Oh
call.
my goodness. I
She
love
called and
her.
they carried a conversation because I wasn't
And
home.
she likes to tell.
Uh-huh. And she talked a lot more than her mother.
So, do you know how many children Cruz had?
No.
What do you remember about my mom in Fresno?
Oh, your mom. I remember about your mom and Sarah when Sarah was young. And you know, when you're young and you look at these women and they're just so beautiful. I
Sarah
remember
was
your
beautiful.
mother, how beautiful she was. And just like a dream, I remember them getting all dressed up to go to a dance.
Mhm.
And your mother was very vivacious, very uh, just just different. I don't remember Sarah, and I remember Sarah being very pretty, but I remember your mom.
She's magnetic, yeah.
Uh-huh. Very, and just like a dream. I remember them getting ready to go to a dance and laughing and they were really, you know, heels and dressed up. And to me, you know, I don't know how old I was, but oh, that was something to see. I guess I was visiting there when they,
Mhm.
and then after that, I remember when I used to come and stay with Dela, and they would take me to Santa Barbara. I went to Santa Barbara with Tata and Dela or Rudy. Rudy took us.
Rudy.
Tata
Yes.
didn't go. Rudy would take
Rudy.
us,
Yeah.
and I'd be staying with him, so they take me too. And that's how I got close to your mom.
Teresa and I remember when you and Liz were coming and
Mhm.
Hope, the whole
Yeah.
house was turned upside down because the same thing, these beautiful women, remember, they were coming.
Isn't that
Oh.
something? And you looked
And
forward
we
to.
looked forward.
It
and
was
they
so
had
exciting.
Makeup and they had suits. And darn it, they always had to go to the courthouse and to the old mission.
Yes.
And the botanical garden.
Yes,
Remember
and the
that?
church.
Every time.
Uh,
And we used to look forward to you, just like we
Yeah.
look forward to Sarah and my mother. going
Yeah.
to the dances
That's
and
exactly the
dress.
same.
They were
Yeah.
Big and beautiful.
But your mom uh, always paid attention to us. She always
Loved you.
she talked to us. Sarah was a little more flighty, you know. Yeah, you know. But your mom, I think that's why I got closer because she paid attention and she talked to us,
Mhm.
and she always included us.
The excitement was big.
Uh-huh. And then when I did she come to my wedding? I don't remember, but she met Manuel.
We had the picture.
I got the wedding picture.
She had the wedding picture. My sister Margaret
Yeah.
probably has it.
Anyways, when we went on our honeymoon, we got married. We went to San Francisco, and then Manuel wanted to go to Santa Barbara and go see Aunt Margaret and Mauro. So we drove and we went to Santa Barbara and we spent 2 days there and we went over to you and spent time with your dad and your mom on our honeymoon. We had to go
We must
see
have
them.
been there, Teresa.
Yeah, you must have been there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I remember when Raul and I got married, coming up here and spending time because Raul and I got married and we drove directly to Emma's house. And see, Emma used to go to the Sampson Clinic in Santa Barbara.
Uh-huh.
And so she had a point where she couldn't really walk very well.
Yeah.
And I remember Raul used to carry her to the
She
doctor's
loved
office.
him. Mi
Yeah.
limón, le decía mi limón.
La limonada.
La limonada y mi
Yeah.
limón.
But she used to call
That
him
was
Mi
her
Limón,
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loved him.
Yeah. He was really,
He
really
was
good.
very
Oh,
good to
yeah.
her. Very good.
Yeah. And
Yeah, oh,
so
she
we
loved
were
him.
just dating at that time.
Really.
Yeah, we were very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, but
So-
she was. Yeah, that's how I got to go to Santa Barbara more when I was young, because I'd be with Liz and Tela. They used to take me over to their house because I was so skinny, and you know we were alone, And one time we had a stepmother, but didn't, you know. And I was so skinny all the time, so my aunt would take me to fatten me up. And then one time they asked my dad if I could go with them to Hollister, and because I was real skinny. And they did. They took me to Hollister. They used to go cut
You'd
apricots.
be in today.
Oh, it was a vacation. It was a thrill for me to be. And Lizzie and I would stay in the tent and eat seeds. By the time we left, the floor of this tent was like a carpet. They'd buy us bags. They'd go to town and buy us a bag of seeds. And then we'd go watch them cut fruit. And oh, that was, and I gained weight.
Good.
And then they'd come home and then I'd go home. But I was close to Tela, very close.
That stepmother was.
How old were you, do you
horrible.
think?
Gee, let me see. I wasn't in high school. I was in grammar school.
Okay. Oh, you were young,
I
young.
was young, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I remember you guys saying that she would wash the floor with your hair?
Who did
Your
Your
stepmother.
stepmother.
wash the floor with our hair? No, we used to, when my dad married her, we moved to, my dad had a job there. And when my dad would go to work, then my stepmother would tell the two boys to get out of the house, go. It was great for them. They'd go and spend the whole day and don't come until your father comes. So they'd go and they made a lot of friends in
Yeah,
Merced.
great.
But I had to, she'd sit down and I had to, she had hair up
Oh,
to
that
here.
was the hair.
And I had to brush her hair until my arm would hurt. And I had to brush and brush and brush. And she'd just sit there like a queen. And to me, I didn't know any different. I was doing it. And Espy was cleaning house and making tortillas, I think. She was busy. But I was doing the hair.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that went on for a year. I think a year. And then we moved back to Fresno. And one time she was hitting me. And my aunt lived next door, my Aunt Angie, my dad's brother's wife. They both lived next door. And she was hitting me. So my aunt came out and she says, come on, hit me. Don't hit a kid or something.
Right,
Ponte
yeah.
con una mujer, no con una criatura, or something like that,
Mhm, yeah.
And they got into a fight of pulling hair. And we were all crying. We were scared, And my uncle comes out of his house and he sees them in the yard. They were fighting. And he says, pégale vieja, pégale vieja.
You knew how bad she
Oh
was.
yeah, and he was laughing. He was enjoying it. And here we were all her kids. She had a bunch of little kids and us too. We were all scared. And anyways, then they separated and she had earrings. So I remember she was bleeding from an earring, my stepmother. And then my uncle and my aunt says, quick, get in the cars. But she said, I'm going to go call the cops. Get in the car in Spanish, So they took us all in the car and they took us to my aunt's mother. She lived on the other side of town. And we spent the night there. We didn't come home. But that was a traumatic thing. That was,
What happened
something.
with your father about that?
well, then my father found out how she was with us. See, my dad didn't know he go to work.
And you never tell.
No, oh gosh, no. And he found out, I think my aunt, my uncle, and he divorced her. Yeah, so then we were left alone. And then we would go with him wherever he was working, and we'd go and we'd have our own house, and he'd rent a place, and we'd be with him until he married my other Gloria's mother and father. Gloria's mother, Gloria and Frank's mother. She was real nice. She taught us all we know. She was very good stepmother. But the family, let me see. I remember going to Santa Barbara with Rudy and Sarah and them to the fiestas.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was a big deal for me. I don't remember if Espy went. Did she say anything about going?
Espy used to go.
She used to go too. I remember.
More
But not, I don't know.
We would go in his. He had like a van,
Yes, the meat van.
meat van, and we'd go in there and we'd take blankets and
Yes,
he'd take us to
maybe
Santa
not
Barbara.
that time.
What kind of meat van was this?
He had he had a grocery store.
What year is this?
1945, 46.
But before that, because I wasn't married.
He
Yeah.
wasn't married.
I married in 40.
We lived in
He used
Montecito.
to deliver meat
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
got married 40,
During the war.
45, 46. I got married.
46,
6%,
It was
49.
43, 44 in there.
Yeah, it was before
Were
that
you
because we were
still-
big already.
You were already out of
I was-
school and all?
I don't know. Yeah, I must have been out of high school.
You were the reinas of our life.
You're kidding.
Yeah, you were.
The
We
movie
really-
stars of our life.
Yeah.
The closest we got to royalty. That's true.
Now you know how we felt about your
Yes,
mom.
That's what I'm saying.
Your mom and Sarah.
Oh, God.
How you look up? You look when you're a child. You look up at
Pancake
these.
makeup. And
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Sarah used to wear these heels, and then she was real pretty,
That's
Sarah.
Yeah.
And your mother was beautiful. Your mother was different. It was natural.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very
she was
pretty.
natural. She
Very
was-
natural beauty. And I remember your mom and Sarah giggling together. And that's one thing I remember. They'd be talking, I guess, about friends or boyfriends.
Uh-huh.
They were getting ready to go dances, I guess. And we'd sit there. Probably was about like her to sit there and watch them and just.
That was
Sonita
us.
was probably going to meet up with Rudy. And
Uh-huh. They were,
Salvador
yeah.
that she married. Yeah.
I never met him.
Was he from Fresno? I don't even know.
I don't know.
His mother lived in Ventura.
All I know is I heard the story of how they died.
Yeah.
It just
Horrible.
Yeah. Tragic.
horrible.
Tragic.
Very tragic. Yeah.
That will get
But-
through in Salvador's story.
I never, I never remember meeting him. And your dad, when did I meet him? When did they get married? They were married.
In Ventura.
Yeah.
She had Sal and Waldo. So what's the age difference with Sal and Waldo?
Sal was born September of 1929. Waldo was born in November of 31.
And you were born
in
34?
34. Yeah.
So
But
my mom, Alvina was born 7 months after they married.
I was
what-
premature.
Sure.
But
So that would have
she
been,
was just 3 months pregnant when her husband died.
I thought she was 6 months pregnant.
I don't think so.
No, yeah, I heard that
We
she
will
was
find
pregnant
out
when he
because
died.
Waldo has the newspaper, and the Mexican community took care of her.
Oh, really?
And then she went to the lemon packing house and she met my father. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Now, how did you meet Manuel?
My Manuel?
Good
Oh, yes, at a dance. At a dance here in Fresno. He was in uniform. He was stationed here in, there was a camp, Lemoore.
Was this
Mm.
in the army?
Uh-huh.
Marine?
Air Force.
Air Force.
Was it Air Force?
But it was
Yeah.
a Korean War.
No,
Oh, no,
No.
Manuel.
no, it was in the Second World War.
Oh,
Second War.
He went into, he went to, from here, he went to Missouri. And Missouri, that's when I started going, and then he'd call me. He'd call me.
That was-
Because I only went out with him about 2 times or 3 times for
Oh.
dancing, I'd meet him at the dance.
but he was a local boy too.
From Fowler.
Fowler, yeah.
Mhm. And then he started writing to me. He went to Missouri, and then they tested them, how they do test them, and then
police.
he qualified to be in intelligence. And then they sent him to Berkeley to learn Italian. And his buddy, who was our brother, when we got married, they sent him to Stanford for language too, because they were planning on occupational in Italy. So he was going to be made a lieutenant and go to Italy if the war kept on.
Mhm.
But then he used to go. He went to school there, and I used to go. I had a family in Oakland that we knew real well. My dad knew real well the mother and the girls that we were in each other's weddings, wrangles.
Oh, that's good.
And I used to go up there. That my dad would let me go, and then I'd stay with him. And Mal would come and take me to a restaurant there in Oakland where he used to go hang out to learn Italian, and he did real well. He learned real Italian, and then we'd meet Mitch, who was in Stanford in San Francisco, and then we'd take the, what was it, what, some kind of a, how did you get from San Francisco to Oakland then?
Oh,
Ferry
you
or
had
what?
the ferry.
The ferry,
The
huh?
ferry bill, yeah, the
Uh-huh.
ferry. Would take you.
And anyways, then then they found out that they would not need him for occupation and occupational forces in Italy, so they shipped him to India. And he was in a teletype operator. That's what he ended up being up there. And when the war ended, he was one of the ones that teletyped it. He received it, the message that the war was ending.
Oh.
And then he teletyped it to different
What place?
places around in India, wherever he was communicating with.
Well, were you married by then?
No, we got married when he came back. He came back, and we got married a year later.
You got letters once in a while?
Oh yes, all the time, letters and email, all the time. Yeah,
Email?
I still have some of those.
Or telegrams?
Oh yeah, I got a telegram one time, and I have it, and it says, "Dearest, how about going dancing with me Saturday night at the Palomar?" That meant he was coming home.
Oh my goodness.
You know, he'd come home on leave, and that's
Uh-huh.
how he let me know that he was coming home. I have that. I
What an exciting
uh-huh.
time for you.
It was
Sad,
very exciting.
lonely.
Yeah. And then he came home, and we waited a year because his brother got married when he came home. We had our wedding plan. We were going to get married in November, and his brother's girlfriend got pregnant. So the house that was going to be ours, we had to give it to them. The father had two homes, older homes in Fowler. So he gave them one and us one. So since they had to get married, they got that house that was already fixed. They were fixing it.
Mhm.
So we waited until the following November to get married. And we got married in 46, 78. Yeah, because which was 149. And he farmed for a while. And he went to school under the GI.
Quita el teléfono.
Oh, I have a habit of doing that. And then we bought a ranch. And then he went to school at night, law school. He wanted to be a lawyer. This is where his son takes.
Oh.
He wanted to be a lawyer, so we couldn't afford. He had to work, so he went to school nights, and it didn't. He didn't stay too long because he couldn't handle it. So then he went to took real estate test, and he studied real estate, and then he passed his test, and then he became a real estate.
That's what it
Uh-huh.
was.
And he was in town. He was very active, just like Richard. He ran for councilman when we found out he had cancer was in uh, April, 1st of April, and the elections were, I think, the 14th or 15th, and he was running for councilman. So we called a lot of friends and don't vote for him because we just found out what he had.
It was in the 50s.
Yeah, what year did he die? 65, he died.
65.
Just like Richard. Richard got into politics in town, and he was very well known. He was scout master of the whole area, all the towns around the valley, around here, all the towns. He was in the Boy Scouts, very active. And when he died, he was he was in the planning commission too in Fowler, he was on the planning commission. Richard was on planning commission in Boulder too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Following his
Just-
footsteps.
How long were you married?
We were married in 47 or 46, and he died in 65. 17 years, I should know that. 17 years I was married. 17 years.
And
14,
Richard
15,
was
16, 17.
14. when he
Richard
died.
was 14. And
You were
and
10
Richard,
years.
out of that, our group of scouts, we had about 4 eagles, and Richard was one of them.
Mhm.
And it was so nice because he got to pin his boy,
Mhm.
you know, as an eagle. And when I'll never forget when he died at his funeral. As we got down to going to the church, there was a row of scouts on this side, a row of scouts saluting him as he went by.
I remember this.
Do you remember that? That was when I saw those little boys, I just
Oh my God.
that was horrible. I'll never forget it.
It was,
But it was
honorable,
beautiful,
too.
a very big
It was
honor
an
for him.
honor.
And then they formed a scholarship for him, and a scholarship was given in his memory for about, I don't know, 4 years or 5 years after. And I know my brother Frank presented it a couple of years. Richard was still in high school. I never could do it. I think my brother did it for him. He went and presented the scholarship to Mexican boys.
Of course.
Mhm. He was very much into education,
Education for us.
very much. And Richard is doing the same thing.
So tell us about Richard.
Well, Richard is a wonderful son. I've had a wonderful life with my son. I don't know. I've asked him if he has, are you trying to do what Dad did? And no, it just comes to him. He's been, he's very well known in Boulder.
Successful. I
Very
hear that.
successful. And he's just like his dad. He's soft spoken, doesn't get excited. He's very intelligent, like his dad was. And I always tell him, I says, your brains are your dad's. He says, no, there's some of yours too, Mom.
Oh.
But he is like his dad. His mannerisms, the family will tell you. His mannerisms, his kindness, very honest, I've seen him in action, and I've done what do they call them? Depositions with him as his interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
But of course I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done depositions with him, and he's they have a Make-A-Wish. I have a lot of literature on him, what he's done, and taking care of children that are failing, or like they do the that bicycle Ride the Rockies. I'll
Oh,
show you some
yeah.
literature. Ride the Rockies. What they do is go to high school. Some judges in Denver and lawyers, him and another one or two, I don't know how many. They go to the schools, high schools, and see if there's any kids that are in trouble or failing. So they tell them, if you go to Ride the Rockies with us, we'll give you a bicycle. We'll get all your outfit and everything, and you train with us. And they have done that, and they've taken many kids that are not doing good, even girls, and they take them on Ride the Rockies. That means hundreds of miles. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's a bicyclist, and he does a lot of that. Then he does I can't keep up with him really, all the stuff he does. He does a lot of Make-A-Wish for kids, to make a wish, like the Wish Foundation they have, you know, for that are sick. Well, this is for kids to make a wish, what they want to do and what they want to be. And he's in that. He heads that. He has, and then he has, of course, he's Santa Claus once a year for the underprivileged children. He does, I think this is his third or fourth year he does. There was a judge that did it every year for many years. And then when he died, they asked Richard to do it. So he's been doing it. And that's something he does. So every year I get a card, Santa Claus. And then let's see, he's on the hospital board of the local hospital. He's on the board. He was asked to be on the board. In fact, they just came from Hawaii. They spend a week. The whole board goes, all expenses paid, and they meet there and they plan their year. And they went, both of them, and gave him a car and everything, and they had their meetings and everything. Then the second week he went and spent with Alex. So they had a real good. They just got back about a week or two ago. From
Oh,
there.
how great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Where is
picture
he
of
in Hawaii? Alex,
He's in,
do you know what island?
I think Oahu. Didn't SB say where he was?
Oh, we didn't ask.
I think he's in Oahu.
by the both of them, he's married
Richard.
and he's got, yes.
Yes. Oh, he was married to Rhonda Uzzle, and he was divorced. They were married 5 years, almost 6. And then he didn't marry for about maybe, I'd say 8 years, I think. And then when he finished law school, then he married Jeannie. She's Italian, and she's a Spanish teacher. She speaks better Spanish. Oh, that's something I didn't tell you. My son didn't know how to speak Spanish, so he always has to have an interpreter. And he says, "It's your fault, mother. It's your fault," and it's true, because we didn't speak Spanish when he was at home, when he was a little boy, and that's when they learn. So, but he's doing real well. Um, he understands everything. He speaks it, but not fluent. But he understands everything. But Jeannie interprets for him. When the clients call or something, she interprets for him if he doesn't understand. And he's very embarrassed that he doesn't know, how to speak Spanish well. But he's trying, and he's doing real good.
And there's 2 children.
And Jeannie had 2 daughters when they got married. I don't remember how old they were, but one was in grammar school. I think they both were. And now they're grown up. Once the youngest one is working in Washington D.C. for Schwab's. That she's very, very, she speaks 5 languages. Very, very brilliant girl. And she's working for that. She's had a lot of degrees in school. And the other one has a degree in I don't know, she lives in Denver, and she has a landscaping business, and she builds homes, remodels homes, and sells them. Or right now she has about 4 homes. And now she's going to get married to a fellow. She was married and has a little girl. And the girl is 7, Olivia, and she's Richard's granddaughter. He adores that little girl. She's a sharpy little girl. She's real sharp. And I'm so happy and just thrilled that he saw this little baby, and it's his granddaughter. And he loves it. He just loves it. And of course, the girls love him. They're very good daughters for him. And he's very proud of his 2 girls. And my Jeannie, of course, she's a wonderful daughter-in-law, a wonderful daughter. And my happiness is when I see them together. And there's such a beautiful closeness with them. They're I've never, it's strange, and I've never seen them say an unkind word to each other or fight or anything. And I know they must, but they're just a beautiful relationship. But she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. She's a teacher, and she just retired. and she went to high school in Rome. Her dad was a professor, and her mother was teacher to a professor. And her dad was, I think it was in the embassy in Rome, and she went to high school in Rome. She graduated in Rome, and then she came to Colorado, and that's where Richard met her, Colorado. But she had already been married and was divorced.
Mhm.
And now the girls are very close to their dad, which they weren't before. They're very close. And Richard and him are the best of friends. It's very nice to see them together when they have something doing. They have, like when they graduate from college. They're both dads are going to be there. It's real nice. And I have had a wonderful life because I had a wonderful husband, my Manuel, and then I had Ed,
And
and I had a a wonderful man. We had our problems, we'd get mad, and then we wouldn't see each other, but then we'd always go back.
that's our friend.
Uh-huh. He was a challenge. He was, and I feel I was very fortunate to have two. I never went out with other men or anything. I never, like sometimes you're a widow and you start going out with other men, and I once I started going with it, I never went out with anybody. And he was my boss at work. He was one of the big bosses, and um, we couldn't have gotten married because I was the supervisor and he was a boss, and I would have had to quit, or he would have, and of course I wouldn't, and he wouldn't, of course. So we always said, well, when we retired, we'd get married. Well, a lot of times I says, oh no, never. Uh, but as we got older, we got, mellowed, I think, and he wouldn't come and live here, and I wouldn't live up in the mountains. I didn't like it. So we had the beautiful life. He lived up there, enjoyed his hunting and fishing, and I lied. I lived down here, and I had a date for dinner or parties or wherever we went, and then we traveled all over. We traveled all over to see Richard, and then Richard and Jeannie and I, we would take off and go someplace, and uh, very good arrangement. And I miss both of my loves. I miss them both.
Yes.
I miss them both very much.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very fortunate that I'm here. Anything else you want to know? Gee, I wish I could remember more about Tela.
What
Tela was,
about your mother? What do you remember about her? Jovita?
all I remember about my mother was we lived, I don't know, in Fresno someplace, and there was in the back of the house, there was a room. It was all screened because she was TB. And I wanted to,
When
and
you couldn't get
she
in?
couldn't
Yeah, hope
touch us
so.
or come out. And she'd stand at the door and we'd stand out here. And all I can remember, see, must have been 6 then. I think she died when I was 7. And all I remember her is singing this little song about coffee cup, or coffee can, or SB remembers it too,
Yeah, because your mother spoke English and wrote English.
real well. She taught my dad.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just like a dream, I remember her. And then I remember seeing the coffin. They used to bring her to the house then.
Mhm.
And I remember trying to look in, and I remember these ladies saying, "Pobrecitas, pobrecitas," and I didn't know what they meant, but now I know what they meant.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh. And I couldn't reach to see my mother in the coffin.
Oh, nobody picked you up.
No. Uh-uh. And I don't remember the funeral, or I don't remember
No.
her being buried or anything. I don't even know if I went. But that's all I remember about my mom. And she was tall. And the day she died, my dad took us 4, Maya, Lawrence, SB, and I, to the hospital. She was in the hospital then here at Fresno. And he told us to stay down there, and we stayed down there. And then he went in, and she got up from bed, I guess, and she came to the window, and we saw her, and we waved and waved, and she waved at us, and she saw us. And then my dad came down to take us home Telas, I think, or my grandma, I don't know. And when he got back, she had died. She got up to see us and she hemorrhaged. But we saw her and we waved to her.
That's a good pain.
And it was, not close. We was just far away. She was on the second story, I think. And that's all I remember about my mother. That's all.
She must have hurt so much.
Can you imagine? And now that when you're a mother, you think, what a horrible thing for her to
Yeah.
see all of us and not be able to hold us or touch us.
Segregated.
Uh-huh. How
But
horrible.
for you, little people.
Mhm. So we don't know. And it's real odd because I have heard Espy say that her dream is she dreams of my mother holding her. And that's my dream too.
Oh.
I dream of my mother holding me. Not just once, I've
She's
dreamed it.
holding you.
Mhm. I think she is. But yeah, that's one of my dreams. And it was real funny when I heard Espy saying it because I dreamed the same thing.
Has this been recently or it's been an ongoing thing?
That I dreamed her.
Uh-huh.
It's been a long time now. It's been a long time. I can't remember the last time. Oh, I was already married and I had Richard. But I haven't dreamed her in the last years,
A few years, yeah.
And when I dreamed her, it was maybe, I'd say 3 times. Not many times. Maybe 3 times, her holding me. But that's all I know about my mother. I know more about Tela. I know more about your mom.
What about that?
Oh, Tela. Tela loved me. I know that. I know Tela loved me.
She loved the song.
Yes, she did. And she showed it. And she showed it. We were all special to her. And she was, what I loved about them. I love to hear Tat and Tela argue.
Oh,
Oh,
constantly.
they were so cute, weren't they, darling?
Cute about that.
So darling, and always viejo horrible and viejo this and that. Oh, they were so cute. I loved them so much, and that this couple I was telling you, Mexican couple from Selma, had some chickens, and I went to visit them. So they had 2 little chickens. So they said, "Would you like to have one?" I said, "Oh yes, I'd love to have one." So when I moved, I brought them. They're little ones. They grew up, and I named them Tela and Tata because they were always fighting. So I named them Tela and Tata, and all the family got a big kick out of that. But they were always fighting. Well, one of them turned out to be a rooster, and they used to climb on that tree by my bedroom window, and that's where they'd sleep. And I'd leave the window open. I could see them sleeping there, and I think they felt secure because there was a cat around. Anyways, one morning in spring, I woke up and I hear this cock-a-doodle-doo, real loud, a rooster. It was my rooster. He had grown up and he was singing 4 in the morning. And I knew the neighbors wouldn't go for that. So I took him back to the ranch. I took him back to my people. And I said, I can't keep him because they're going to get after me, call the cops, or make me get rid of him. So I took him and I left him there, and I used to go visit him. And then I didn't see him for a while. And then the lady said, "Oh, they're around. Well, about 2 months later, they told me that the coyote had eaten them.
No way.
Yeah, the coyote got them. They were out in the country.
Yeah.
So they lost Tela and Tata.
Pobre rooster.
Uh-huh.
Y la
But,
gallina.
How would
Both
they?
of them.
How would they argue? Can you kind of reenact
Oh.
that a little bit?
Oh, let's see. They'd argue about everything. Viejo cochino, viejo. Quítate de aquí. She wanted to talk to us, and he'd come in. Oh, and what did he call her? Oh, she's my sweetheart. She's my sweetheart. And he'd tell her, he'd tell me, he'd say, she loves me. She loves me, And she'd, viejo, horrible, viejo, get out of here. And he would just go on and on with her, and she'd act like she was real mad,
And she really was.
but she wasn't. And he'd say, "My sweetheart, viejo Viejo Horrible, Viejo Feo, and oh, they were just, I can't remember everything, but it was a comedy every time we went there. And Lawrence, my brother, would just go and edge them on, egg them on to just get them
I
going.
could just hear them.
Oh yeah, they were so cute. They would argue, and then she'd turn around. He'd make her laugh, and she didn't want him to see her. She'd turn around and she'd laugh, so he wouldn't see that she was enjoying it. But they were darling.
I remember Raul and I came down to Fresno to visit with them. And so we brought a ham, and this was before we had any children. And I remember I made a lemon pie, and it was really watery. And so that was so gracious. He souped it up, and he said, "This is the best. Es el más mejor." And I knew it wasn't, because I knew he was a cook too,
Yeah.
but he was always
It
generous
was
like that.
it was a comedy thing when you went there. It was laughter, because they would argue, and they weren't really arguing. They were just
Yeah, just
playing,
bickering back and forth.
bickering.
What can you tell us about your other siblings, like Lawrence, and then you had
Mayo, the youngest one.
Mayo?
Yeah, he came home from World War II, and he was killed in that too.
Oh,
Not
he
in
was
that
killed
two. Not in
in
that
the
two. That was
dam.
Alex in
The dam.
the dam, the Cooley Dam.
Yeah.
That's where he was
So
killed.
what can you tell us about Lawrence and